A dramatic scene in Williamsburg this morning as the Mill River broke its banks, forcing people to evacuate their homes.
22 News reporter Duncan McLean was there and has an inside look at the operations with the Western Massachusetts Technical Rescue Team.
It hasn't come up this fast since Irene.
I have never seen it flood that much.
Torrential rain in Williamsburg, flooding the East Branch Mill River and forcing evacuations. Homeowners along the typically calm river watched Monday morning as it rapidly rose. They've seen flooding here before, but not like this.
By 9 o'clock, Jack came up. It was still rising then, so I mean, it just came up real quick. And we pulled stuff away from the edges of the water and everything, but we didn't pull it far enough back.
3 people in total saved from their homes by the Western Massachusetts Technical Rescue Team.
2 residents were rescued. They used the boat to just bring them across the water to safety. An additional resident was just assisted through the water.
Extreme weather events like this one we saw today are exactly what this team was assembled for, and today their efficient response proved they're second to none. The team has gear stored in all 4 Western Massachusetts counties and coordinates personnel from all over the region. Their first team hit the water in Williamsburg just 20 minutes after the initial call.
This morning, being what the incident was an all call.
The technical team will remain on standby with more rain in the forecast. For homeowners, it's time for cleanup.
A lot of groundwork, fixing lawns, going down the river and seeing where our chairs are and tables and stuff.
Working for you, Duncan McLean, 22 News.
So we're just reviewing the call out that we had yesterday in Williamsburg to assist with a couple of trapped residents in their homes.
Yeah, it was quite a call. I had received a cell phone call from Williamsburg Fire saying they weren't sure what they were going to be able to do. They knew they had at least 3 people that were beyond the reach of their local department, and they did not know about 5 other houses. So they were kind of asking if I knew what assets or what any suggestions on what they could do. And of course my answer was, well, why don't we send the team out there and get at least some assessments done. If we can help, we can help. And that turned into quite a little operation.
So I was one of the first people to arrive. When I had gotten there, one of our team members who was also on a mutual aid department had already suited up and with ropes and some assistance from the team had made contact with the 2 individuals in the one house that we knew couldn't get out.
Yeah, I actually talked to those people today after the incident was over, and they were very appreciative, and one of the things that I learned was they were in panic mode, and they had really no communication with the firefighters they could see on the street but couldn't communicate with. Phones went down, so there was no way to communicate inside the house. And one of the things they told me is as soon as that person got to them and said, listen, we're doing things, it's going to take a little bit, are you safe? They immediately calmed down. They knew that stuff was getting ready, and as long as they knew they were going to be okay, it allowed that incident to calm down a little bit and got us the time to get us set up and everything safety checked and in place before we went into the water.
My understanding was there was a lot of unknowns because of that lack of ability to communicate.
Right.
And by getting a person out to them to start the signaling back and forth, for us to use radio communication to talk about how the situation actually was evolving, we were able to make some better choices about what to do. Yeah. We were able to deploy our banana boat out to get them and bring them both back in with multiple lines, multiple technicians, but we were able to do that on a much slower, controlled environment as opposed to worrying about a medical emergency that may or may not have been happening and that panic mode that you were discussing.
Right, yeah, the RDC was instrumental in that. We were able to put both of them in the rapid deployment craft right away, and that was awesome. We could fit everybody we needed to in there for that rescue. One of the things that came out of today too was that I learned was there's a lot of information that was coming in that was very unclear. We were looking at that one incident where we had some people trapped in some houses, but there was a lot of other stuff going on in the town, and we had some information coming in that there might be an issue with the dam upstream. We didn't know if the water was going to come up or down, and one of the issues that we had was the communication and clarifying good factual information from the people in the know to the people that were on that scene to make those proper decisions. So really, we had a little snafu with radio communications in that area because it is in a deep valley that curves and there's no radio communications out of it. So, one of the issues we had with some of the decisions we were making were we were doing the best assumptions that we could with some of that information coming in because we didn't have really fast, up-to-date information coming in. But
cell phone coverage is limited. There were some that occasionally had coverage, others didn't at all. No real radio communication out, although we could talk amongst ourselves. But one of the areas that we noticed that we could really use some improvement is as the scope of this incident expanded, it was impossible for us to focus on anything other than what was operationally in front of us. So as we try to look at things like how many more incidents do we have in this and in neighboring communities, what might be happening upriver or downriver for us, that was outside of our ability to adjust for. And maybe at the regional level, there is something that we can do to call up assets, to call up resources, to help to figure out what that planning structure, what that incident command would look like at a larger level.
Yeah, one of the good things that was going on is in the background while you guys were operational on that site was there was some phone calls going around on my side. I knew we had all of our equipment deployed in one spot. I actually notified Central Mass that, hey, just so you know, we're all out right now, just to give them a little heads up that, if something else starts coming in, we might have to increase, some more resources here. And, some communication was amongst different chiefs in the area too. And we brought in one of our tech rescue chiefs to help out in the ISU to get that
instrumental at
to
the
get
scene
that
and a big help.
Yeah, to get that bigger picture, looking at is there going to be more, is there not going to be more, and allow the technicians on scene to really just focus on what they were doing. And we put some people in the command structure that had tech rescue experience to help the locals make those decisions if they needed to. Luckily, we didn't have a lot of other calls at that time. We ended up with a couple other missions that day. We made 2 rescues. We assisted a person out of their house, and we also searched, I think, 5 different structures.
This was a true swift water emergency and required all of the training that we have received for our water rescue, all of our water rescue trailer equipment. We had everything committed to this scene. We had absolutely maxed out our resources for what we could do, but we're able to use the training that we have so far. Had we had another mission in another community, we would have needed more technicians trained. And as we look to the future, based on the number of people that we got to come in and the speed with which we had the response, we definitely maxed out our ability. And if we had a larger event, we would need further training and further equipment to try to handle that.
Yep.
We were able to remove those 2 individuals from their home. We assisted another individual who wasn't sure whether or not he felt that it was time to leave or not, but did come along because there were questions about the water level. And then we cleared all of the structures from the area where we started all the way down to the ISU, which was about a half mile, 3/4 of a mile away. Made contact with all those individuals, talked about the weather at the time, the predicted weather that was coming, when the water was expected to surge until and when it would back down, and really were able to make contact with those people and give them some good information to make them able to make better decisions.
Yeah, I learned a couple things too. There's a couple pieces of equipment that I wish we would have had there. For instance, we have bullhorns in our rope rescue trailers, but we didn't. Water rescue is somewhat new to us. This was our first really full activation for water rescue, and we didn't have bullhorns in the water rescue trailer, and I think those would have been instrumental here. So I think we'll add those to our equipment list. And there's a few other smaller things that we realize that we may have in another equipment cache, but we don't necessarily have on site in that water rescue trailer when we need them. The other thing that we did take a good look at too was there was a lot of communication about alternate methods of rescue other than going into the water, and I think we all reviewed those, and there was a lot of discussion on scene about what's the best route to go and the safest route to go, and the decision was made by the local fire department to send us in, and it was very successful. Nobody got hurt, but it was good to have that conversation of just because we're here doesn't mean we have to be the ones to go in the water, and we worked with the local department about other options too, and but it all worked out very well. And we have about 29 members right now that are trained in water rescue, and in the past I've always said that we need at least half our team at technician level in order to go operational regionally in that discipline. and we are at our minimum right now. So hopefully in the future we'll get a few more people trained up, so we'll have more than a minimum to operate in the future.
We're very fortunate today to have gotten out to rehab the trailer, to dry off and care for a lot of the equipment that we use. We have identified a couple of other small things like you were talking about, wrenches that we have plenty of in our structural collapse trailer, but we didn't think to put wrenches and things like that into our water trailer, and we need them when hooking up motors to boats and other things of that nature. So we do have some smaller needs, and of course we've got a list ready as always, but it was very fortunate to be able to use all of the training and equipment that we do have in such a successful effort that worked really well with the local community.
Biggest thing for me as the administrator of the team too is we try and test what we have, and we base our purchases and we base our needs off of real life experience. We're not just looking in a catalog and saying, "Ooh, I'd like to have one of those." These decisions we're making about purchasing stuff is really fact-based as far as operational. We were there, we needed this, we didn't have it. Why not? Let's get it, and so this never happens again. And that's kind of the way we've worked in the past, and it's worked out really well. I'm proud of the equipment that we've bought, and I think that it really suits the region.